What's up guys, who needs matter here, coming at you with another retro deck profile. Today we're going to be looking at Angel Ascencio's YCS Long Beach Top 8 Dino Rabbit deck. This was an event that was the wind-up loop, Dino Rabbit, Inzectors, Chaos Dragons. The event was won by Dark Worlds. This is the 100th YCS. So a fun fact about this event, this was one of the last events that we still had priority, which is why it made our 3 rescue rabbits so good. So this is essentially the main card of the deck. You banish it, get some vanillas, which we have our vanillas here, our 3 Sabersaurus, and our 3 Kabazauls. Well, these are just the guys you use to make your Laggias and Dolkkas, and this is kind of the main play of the deck of using Rescue Rabbit. It was interesting in the mirror. The mirror of this deck was really interesting because you could use Leviair to get your opponent's rabbit. Some people were playing Goldsark to get it sooner with their tour guide play and things like that. So it's kind of interesting, and Effect Veiler wasn't that great against the deck at this time because Rescue Rabbit could call priority and banish itself for cost. Dodge, skill drain, and all those things. And then for the last dinosaur, we have our 3 Guaibas. Run it over. The reason you played this over Hydrogeddon besides the 100 attack was the fact that the cards did not have to hit the graveyard. And it was weird because you weren't playing Macrocosmos at the time. We hadn't really figured out that Macro was like the essential way to play this deck. But the wind-up loop in its initial phase, like if you were going all in with wind-up, some of them were playing D-Fissure to get around hand traps. Next, we'll go with the rest of the monsters here. We have the aforementioned Tour Guide engine with our 3 Tour Guides and 1 Sangan. Again, just a great way to dig into our deck in order to get to our Leviairs and our rank 3 plays. And then the last monsters, we have our Gorz and 3 Maxx. So in order to stop the wind-up loop, especially when they were playing D-Fissure, so if your opponent opened the wind-up loop and they opened D-Fissure, they would go activate D-Fissure and you would chain Maxx to that in order to stop the wind-up loop. A lot of times you couldn't Veiler it because of the D-Fissure and things like that. So, and plus priority with the Veiler not being as good. The only time Maxx wasn't that great against Inzectors unless they had the OTK, which is again why you play the Gorz, because they were essentially going to blow up your whole board anyways. Next for the spells, we have the 3 Forbidden Lance. This is probably the best spell in the deck. It makes sure that your rabbit survives all of those trap cards and things like that if they try and stop you. We have our 1 Mind Control and our 1 Pot of Avarice. Mind Control, again, insane in the mirror. If you can steal one of their vanillas, because a lot of times you are really playing vanilla beat and kind of protect your Sabersaurus and Kabazauls because you play 6 vanillas, but only 3 of your rabbits. And then our staples, Dark Hole, Monster Reborn, Book of Moon, and Heavy Storm, and 3 Mystical Space Typhoons, again, to make sure all of our plays go off. Next, we'll get into the traps here. We have double Fiendish, double Torrential. A lot of builds opted for just 1, because essentially you were protecting your Laggia or your Dolkka, and you didn't want to blow that up. But 2 Torrential, also good. It was kind of a player preference, but you can there's validity behind 1 and behind 2. Mirror Force, and the Solemn Brigade, Solemn Judgment, and 2 Solemn Warnings. Next, we'll get into the extra deck, which is what made this deck good. We'll start with the rank 3s. We have Zenmaines for defense, and then the 2 Leviair. This was really the main rank 3 that you wanted to go into because you really wanted to either reuse your rabbit or steal your opponent's rabbit. Rabbit was just obviously the namesake of the deck, so this was just a way to get into the mirror match. And then some beat sticks with Leviathan Dragon and Acid Golem, and then Giga-Brilliant. Giga-Brilliant was essentially a way to burn your opponent's Thunder Kings against this deck because it could be bigger than it, but you didn't want to waste either of these 2. And then there were niche situations where you had game on board. But Leviair is actually an OTK enabler in this deck, more so than Giga-Brilliant, because you can rescue Rabbit for Laggia, and then next turn, summon Tour Guide, Leviair for that Rabbit, and get the Rabbit back, and then get the 2 Sabersaurus, and then the 2 Sabersaurus plus the Leviair plus the Laggia is 8,000, and you have a negate with the Laggia. And then into the rank 4s, the aforementioned 3 Laggia. There's a lot of people who were going into events playing 2 and go, wow, I wish I played 3. So it's kind of cool to see that he had the foresight to play 3 initially. But we only did play 2 Dolkka. Great way to negate effects. These were the reason you played this deck. Obviously, the Rabbit and this came out in the same set. It was kind of telling you basically to play the deck, or how to play the deck. And then for the rank 4s, we have Utopia and Utopia Ray. And then 1 Steelswarm Roach. So Steelswarm Roach Laggia was only 1 negates against Cast Dragons, but Steelswarm Roach was 2. Cast Dragons really was your worst matchup at the time, because Chaos Sorcerer was bigger than, or can banish Laggia. Light Pulsar is bigger than Laggia. Red MD is bigger than Laggia. BLS is bigger than it. So there's so many big monsters that they could essentially put out. So Steelswarm Roach was a way to negate 2 summons rather than just 1 with the Laggia. And since they weren't really playing traps, you didn't really need to protect it. So this was kind of a way to circumvent that and play around that deck a little bit better. But unfortunately, they could just ram a Card Trooper into it, or they could ram a Thunder King into it, or if they played Jane, they were just bigger than it. And then the last is Chimeratech for the sided Cyber Dragon. You side Cyber Dragon, and this is a great way to get rid of this guy, because it is a machine. So it's a great way to kill off your opponent's Zenmaines and out that if you played Cyber Dragon, because turn 1 Zenmaines was a really strong play, especially in Inzectors, because they couldn't really, they needed a board to do something to go first. A lot of times they would just go Tour Guide, Zenmaines pass, you would go Cyber Dragon, contact it out, and then have a 2k beater and still have your normal summon. So go ahead and give this deck a try. There will be some duels in the description as we play it. Like and subscribe, all that good shenanigans for more old format content. Thanks for watching, guys.